My sister Alina's wedding was the biggest event our town had seen in years. 300 guests filled the glittering hall, their voices mixing with the soft music and the clinking of crystal glasses. Everywhere I looked, there were flowers hanging like waterfalls, candles flickering against golden drapes, and photographers capturing every second as if it were a royal ceremony. I stood near the back, holding my bouquet, trying not to let the weight in my chest show on my face. I was her maid of honor, though it often felt like I was just an accessory, something placed where it wouldn't ruin the perfect picture. Earlier, when we were taking photos, Mom had pulled me gently by the elbow and whispered, "Stand a little behind Alina, don't block her dress," as if my existence alone could dim my sister's shine. But I stayed quiet. I always did. When Alina walked down the aisle, everyone stood and gasped. Mom cried as if she had personally written the script of her daughter's perfect life. I clapped, smiling, even though a tiny, aching part of me wondered if Mom had ever imagined a moment like this for me. The answer was obvious. The reception was loud and brilliant, with waiters carrying trays of desserts I couldn't pronounce. Guests raised toasts to the beautiful bride, the perfect couple, the lucky families. I wished someone would look at me and see something worth celebrating too, but I was just the girl arranging Elena's veil, adjusting her chair, passing tissues and lip gloss when needed. Then, near the middle of dinner, Mom stood up. She tapped her glass with a fork, and the hall fell silent. Her eyes sparkled with pride as she lifted her drink toward Alina. "To my beautiful, successful daughter," she said. Applause erupted. Alina beamed, but then Mom turned to me, and to my other daughter, Mira. She paused deliberately, letting the quiet stretch long enough for people to raise their eyebrows. Then she smiled the kind of smile that made my stomach drop. "So, Mira, when's your turn?" Laughter burst across the tables. Even the groom snickered. Alina hid her giggle with her hand, but her eyes betrayed her amusement. My face burned. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear anything else. I stood up slowly, my hands trembling. But instead of breaking, I forced a calm smile. "Oh, Mom," I said softly, "my turn will come when I choose it, not when others expect it." The laughter stopped. But the damage was already done, and something inside me cracked quietly, but deeply. I thought the sting of my mother's public humiliation would fade after a good night's rest, but it didn't. It clung to me like smoke, following me even as I reached home, took off my dress, and wiped away the last trace of makeup. My room felt small and suffocating, as though the walls themselves knew what had happened. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at my silent phone. It buzzed only once that night with a message from a name I hadn't seen in months. "Rayan, congrats to your sister. Hope you're doing okay." My breath caught. Of all nights, why tonight? He had left me 8 months ago without a single explanation. One day we were planning a trip. The next, he simply said he needed space. And then he disappeared from my life like a coward. But the worst part wasn't the breakup. It was what came after. I saw him a week later, sitting in a cafe with my sister Alina. She was laughing, touching his arm, tilting her head in that rehearsed, perfect way she always did. I froze at the doorway, my heart shattering in slow motion. When I confronted her later that night, she rolled her eyes. "Relax, Mira, he just needed someone to talk to. He said you were too insecure for a future together. I didn't tell you because I didn't want to hurt you." Her words felt like knives. But the truth came in pieces, accidental comments, overheard whispers, things people told me when they thought I already knew. My mother had told Rayan I lacked ambition. She said I depended too much on emotions, and that he deserved someone more stable. She even hinted that I wasn't ready to be a wife. My sister, always smiling sweetly in public, had whispered that I wasn't confident enough for him, that I didn't act like someone who wanted marriage. They had built a wall of doubt around him brick by brick, until he believed it. He didn't leave because I wasn't enough. He left because my family convinced him I wasn't. And the irony was sharp. The same mother who humiliated me at the wedding had already sabotaged the one relationship that meant everything to me. As this truth sank in, the pain turned into something colder, sharper. I realized I had spent years trying to earn love from a family who only knew how to take advantage of my silence. That night, in the quiet of my room, something inside me shifted, not loudly, not dramatically. Just enough for me to whisper to myself, I deserve better, and I'm done letting them decide my worth. The morning after everything became clear, I woke up with a heaviness in my chest, but for the first time in years, it didn't paralyze me. Instead, it pushed me forward. I packed quietly, folding clothes into a small suitcase, slipping my journals and a few books into a backpack. I didn't leave a note. I didn't make an announcement. I simply walked out. When I closed the door to my mother's house behind me, it felt like closing the final page of a painful chapter. I moved into a small apartment on the other side of town. Nothing fancy, just a clean space with sunlight and silence. Silence I finally owned. At first, it felt strange, no constant comparisons, no comments about my weight, my clothes, my future. No footsteps outside my door, but slowly, the quiet began to feel like freedom. I focused on my work, staying late at the office, taking on extra tasks, finally allowing myself to dream without someone telling me those dreams were too big for you, Mira. My effort didn't go unnoticed. Within months, I earned a promotion, my first real recognition, not tied to my sister, not overshadowed by anyone else. Meanwhile, my family's messages shifted in tone. First came the guilt. You left without thinking about us. Alina misses you. You're being unreasonable. When that didn't work, came the need. Your sister needs help with the new house. Can you come babysit? She's overwhelmed. Your brother-in-law said you're good with paperwork, help them with bank documents. Every time I said no. Not rudely, simply and firmly. I'm busy. I can't. I'm focusing on my life right now. My mother hated it. My sister didn't understand it. But I kept going. And while they struggled to adjust to the version of me who didn't drop everything for them, my own world was quietly blooming. One evening after a particularly exhausting day, I met someone. It wasn't dramatic, no sparks flying, no instant love. It was simple, gentle. He was a coworker's friend, introduced casually at a small dinner. His name was Izan. He listened when I spoke. He didn't treat my softness as weakness. He asked what I liked, what I wanted, not what my family expected of me. I found myself laughing again, slowly letting my guard down. This was the part of revenge no one ever talks about, the kind that isn't cold or cruel, but warm and healing. The kind that comes from choosing yourself quietly, repeatedly, until the world finally learns you won't be stepped on anymore. And the sweetest part, my silence was louder than any fight I could have started. A full year passed before I realized just how far I had come. The girl who once stood silently at her sister's wedding, burning with embarrassment, drowning in humiliation, felt like a distant memory now. I had a new job, a new home, a new peace, and most importantly, a new love. My relationship with Izan grew quietly, like a sunrise, slow, steady, gentle. There were no dramatic promises or exaggerated gestures, just honesty, stability, and warmth. He didn't try to fix me, he made space for me to grow. And for the first time, I felt chosen. Not out of convenience, not out of comparison, but simply because I was me. So when he knelt in my living room one rainy evening and asked me to marry him, my yes came with a calm certainty I had never known before. We held a small engagement ceremony. No glittering chandeliers, no 300 guests, no forced smiles. Just close friends, soft music, and genuine happiness. I didn't invite my family. I didn't owe them that chapter, but I did owe myself closure, so a week later I visited them. When I walked into the house, my mother looked up, her eyes widening as they landed on the ring on my finger. "You're engaged?" she asked, her voice a mixture of shock and disbelief. "Yes," I said simply. "To who?" she demanded, as if the name determined whether my happiness had value. "Someone who chose me for who I am." My sister stepped forward, arms crossed. "Why didn't you tell us? Why weren't we part of anything?" I met her gaze and for once didn't look away. "Because my life is not a competition with yours, Elena." She blinked, caught off guard. "And I'm done being compared," I continued. "Done being talked down to. Done letting you and Mom decide what I deserve." My mother scoffed. "You're being dramatic again." "No," I said softly. For the first time in my life, I'm being honest. Silence settled over the room, heavy and unfamiliar. "You humiliated me at Elena's wedding," I said. "You pushed away people who cared about me. You made me believe I was never enough, but I've learned something since I left. Your approval isn't the air I breathe, and I don't need it to live, love, or be happy." My mother's face hardened. My sister's eyes filled with something close to jealousy. I turned toward the door. "I wish you well," I said, "but I won't shrink myself for you anymore." And with that, I walked out, feeling lighter with every step. Izan waited outside, and when he took my hand, I felt it completely. My revenge wasn't loud. It was becoming everything they tried to break. And finally, it was my turn.